Captain Diana Cross stood before the vast observation deck of the exploration vessel Horizon's Edge, watching distant stars flicker like dying embers against the cosmic darkness. Her fingers traced the rim of her coffee cup, steam rising in delicate spirals that reminded her of the nebulae they had passed through just days before. The silence of deep space was both comforting and haunting, a reminder of how small humanity was in the grand tapestry of the universe. "Captain, we're receiving an unusual transmission." Lieutenant Jonas Reed's voice cut through her contemplation. His tone carried that edge of excitement that always preceded something extraordinary. Diana had learned to trust that instinct during their 3 years exploring the Outer Rim territories. She turned from the viewport, her boots clicking softly against the metal deck plating. "What kind of unusual, Lieutenant?" Jonas looked up from his console, his dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of the displays. "It's coming from the Kepler 442 system, but it's not using any standard communication protocols. The signal pattern is almost artistic, like someone's trying to tell a story through pure mathematics." Diana felt her pulse quicken. In all, their missions beyond the Sol system, they had encountered 17 different alien species, each with their own unique way of reaching across the void, but none had ever attempted to communicate through what could only be described as mathematical poetry. "Let me hear it," she commanded, settling into her captain's chair. The bridge crew turned their attention to the main speakers as Jonas began the playback. What emerged was unlike anything they had experienced before. The signal pulsed with rhythmic patterns that seemed to dance between frequencies, creating an almost musical quality that made Diana's heart race for reasons she couldn't quite understand. Embedded within the mathematical sequences were emotional undertones that spoke of desperation, love, and an urgency that transcended species. "There's more, Captain," Jonas continued, his fingers flying across his console. "I've been running the signal through our linguistic analysis programs. It's definitely coming from an intelligent source, and there are embedded visual components." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a cascade of images that had been encoded within the transmission. Diana gasped as she recognized the first image. A human woman with flowing auburn hair and gentle green eyes, her face filled with a mixture of joy and sorrow. The woman was clearly human, but she was surrounded by beings that were decidedly not. The aliens in the images were tall and elegant, with skin that seemed to shimmer between deep blue and violet. Their eyes were large and luminous, filled with an intelligence that spoke of ancient wisdom. Most striking were the delicate wing-like appendages that extended from their shoulders. Not quite wings, but something far more beautiful. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Tara Holt from her station. "Is that Dr. Elena Voss?" Diana's breath caught in her throat. Elena Voss had been one of Earth's most brilliant xenobiologists, part of the first diplomatic mission to the Andorian cluster 5 years ago. The mission had ended in disaster when political tensions erupted into open warfare. Elena had been listed as missing, presumed dead, along with 12 other members of the diplomatic team. But here she was, alive in these images, and clearly, very much in love with one of the aliens. The visual sequence showed Elena and a particularly striking alien female with silver markings across her violet skin. Their interactions were intimate, tender, filled with a passion that needed no translation. "Captain." Jonas's voice was barely above a whisper. "The timestamp on these images, they're from 6 months ago. Dr. Voss might still be alive." Diana felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders like a familiar cloak. The Horizon's Edge was an exploration vessel, not a warship, but she had never been one to abandon fellow humans in need. "What's the current situation in the Kepler 442 system?" "According to our last intelligence reports, it's controlled by the Zephyrian Empire," replied Lieutenant Commander Wesley Park from the tactical station. "They've been engaged in a civil war for the past year. The system is considered extremely hostile to human presence." Diana studied the images still cycling on the main screen. Elena and the alien female, who appeared to be wearing some kind of royal insignia, were shown in various settings that suggested a deep, committed relationship. There were scenes of them walking through gardens of impossible beauty, sharing meals, and in one particularly intimate moment, dancing under the light of twin moons. The signal is repeating every 12 hours, Jonas reported. And it's getting stronger, which means whoever is sending it is either moving closer to us or increasing the power output. Or both, Diana murmured. She made her decision with the swift certainty that had earned her command of the horizon's edge. Set course for the Kepler 442 system, maximum sustainable speed. Captain, Wesley's voice carried a note of caution. The Zephyrian Empire has made it clear that any human vessels entering their territory will be destroyed on sight. We're talking about a potential suicide mission. Diana looked again at the images of Elena Voss, seeing in the woman's eyes a happiness that she had never witnessed during their brief meetings at Earth's diplomatic functions. Whatever had happened in that distant system, it had transformed the reserved scientist into someone radiant with love and purpose. Sometimes the greatest discoveries require the greatest risks, Diana said finally. Besides, we're not just talking about one human life. These images suggest a connection between species that could change everything we know about interstellar relations. As the horizon's edge changed course and began its journey toward the unknown, Diana found herself thinking about the nature of love itself. Throughout human history, love had been the catalyst for both creation and destruction, for the greatest art and the most devastating wars. If Elena Voss had indeed found love among the stars, what price was humanity willing to pay to protect it? The ship hummed with increased energy as they entered hyperspace, leaving behind the familiar constellations of explored space and heading toward a system where love and war danced together in a deadly ballet. Diana could only hope they would arrive in time to make a difference, whatever that difference might be. In the depths of space, the crimson signal continued to pulse, carrying its message of love, loss, and desperate hope across the void, waiting for someone brave enough to answer its call. 6 months earlier, in the crystal spires of Zephyros Prime, Dr. Elena Voss had been preparing for what she expected would be another routine diplomatic meeting. The Zephyrian Empire had finally agreed to formal first contact protocols, and Elena's expertise in xenobiology made her invaluable to the human delegation. She had studied their physiology, their culture, their complex social hierarchies, but nothing had prepared her for Princess Nyxthera. The princess entered the negotiation chamber like liquid starlight given form. Her violet skin held an inner luminescence that seemed to pulse with her heartbeat, and the delicate wing-like appendages that extended from her shoulders moved with a grace that took Elena's breath away. But it was her eyes that captured Elena completely. Large, luminous orbs that held depths of wisdom and sadness that spoke of centuries of existence. Dr. Voss, Nyxthera's voice was like music, each word carefully chosen in accented but perfect English. I have read your papers on cross-species compatibility. Your theories on emotional resonance between different sapient species are fascinating. Elena felt her cheeks flush, something that hadn't happened since her university days. Thank you, Your Highness. I've been eager to test those theories in practical application. What began as professional courtesy evolved into something neither species had anticipated. During the weeks of diplomatic talks, Elena and Nyxthera found themselves drawn together by a connection that transcended the boundaries of their respective biologies. Their conversations grew longer, more personal, extending far beyond the formal requirements of the negotiations. Tell me about your world, Nyxthera asked one evening as they walked through her private gardens. The twin moons of Zephyros cast everything in silver light, making the exotic flowers around them seem to glow with inner fire. Elena described Earth with a passion she hadn't realized she possessed, painting pictures with words of blue oceans and green forests, of cities that reached toward the sky and deserts that stretched beyond the horizon. In return, Nyxthera shared stories of her people's ancient history, of their migration across the stars in search of harmony, of the delicate balance they maintained between technology and nature. It was during one of these moonlit walks that their relationship changed forever. Elena had been explaining human concepts of poetry when Nyxthera suddenly stopped. her wing appendages trembling with an emotion Elena couldn't immediately identify. In our culture, Nyxthera said softly, there is a phenomenon called thamaraden, the recognition of one's soul complement. It happens perhaps once in a millennium, and legend says it can occur between any two conscious beings, regardless of their origin. Elena's heart began to race as she understood the implication. Are you saying? I am saying that when I look at you, Elena Voss, I see the completion of something I did not know was incomplete. Nyxthera's luminous eyes held Elena's gaze, with an intensity that made the human woman feel as though she were falling through space itself. Their first kiss was a revelation that shattered everything both species thought they knew about interspecies relationships. Elena felt Nyxthera's life force flowing through her, a warm energy that seemed to awaken parts of her consciousness she had never known existed. For Nyxthera, Elena's passionate human emotions created resonances in her carefully controlled Zephyrian psyche that were both terrifying and exhilarating. But their love affair could not remain secret for long. General Tor Magnus, the militant, leader of the Zephyrian military faction, had been watching the diplomatic proceedings with growing suspicion. When his spies reported the princess's relationship with the human scientist, his reaction was swift and brutal. This is an abomination, Tor Magnus declared during an emergency session of the Zephyrian High Council. His scarred face bore the marks of countless battles, and his wings, darker than most of his species, seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The princess has been corrupted by human influence. This thing they call love is nothing but a primitive biological response that threatens our entire civilization. The High Council was divided. Some saw Elena and Nyxthera's relationship as proof that the galaxy's species could find common ground beyond political alliance. Others, led by Tor Magnus, viewed it as contamination that could destroy the careful balance of Zephyrian society. Our situation reached a breaking point when Tor Magnus discovered that Nyxthera had been sharing sacred Zephyrian biological secrets with Elena, not for any political purpose, but simply because lovers share everything. The general used this as evidence of treason, demanding that Elena be executed and Nyxthera be stripped of her royal status. You would sacrifice the future of our species for temporary pleasure, Tor Magnus confronted Nyxthera in the crystal throne room, his voice echoing off the translucent walls. Your human has learned too much. She has seen too much. She must die. Then you will have to kill me first, Nyxthera replied with a regal composure that belied the desperation in her luminous eyes. Elena Voss is under my personal protection, and I will defend her with my life. The civil war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had witnessed. It was not merely a conflict over territory or resources, but a fundamental disagreement about the nature of consciousness, love, and the future of interstellar civilization. Zephyrian fought Zephyrian while Elena found herself at the center of a storm that threatened to tear apart an empire that had existed for thousands of years. As the conflict escalated, Elena realized that her presence was endangering not just Nyxthera, but the entire progressive faction of Zephyrian society. Despite her lover's protests, she began secretly working on a way to get a message to human space, hoping that her own species might intervene before the situation became irreversible. I will not let you sacrifice yourself for me, Nyxthera told her during one of their stolen moments together, hidden in the depths of the crystal city while battles raged in the skies above. And I will not let you destroy your people for love of me, Elena replied, holding the princess close, feeling the warm pulse of her alien lover's dual hearts against her chest. But I have an idea. If we can get word to my people, if we can show them what we've discovered about the connection between our species, you want to prove that love itself can be a form of communication, Nyxthera understood immediately. That emotional resonance transcends biological boundaries. Elena nodded, her plan forming even as she spoke. The crimson frequency, the one your people use for deep space communication. If we can encode our memories, our experiences, everything we've learned about each other, maybe we can convince both our species that this is worth fighting for. It was a desperate plan, born of desperation and hope in equal measure. As Tor Magnus's forces closed in on their hiding place, Elena and Nyxthera worked together to create a transmission, unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. A message that combined human passion with Zephyrian wisdom, creating a signal that pulsed, with the rhythm of two hearts beating as one. The message was sent just as Tor Magnus's soldiers broke down their door. As Elena was dragged away, she saw Nyxthera standing defiantly in the ruins of their sanctuary, her wings spread wide, and her eyes blazing with a love that would burn across the stars until someone was brave enough to answer its call. Now, somewhere, in the depths of space, that call was finally being heard.